And we hope we know that many of you also participated in marches around the country. Power to the polls, grabbing by the midterms. Um, our dear friend, several years ago, Tarana Burke, started this MeToo hashtag, and it has since been resurrected because of the Weinstein revelations in Hollywood, as we all know. And now Hollywood has come up with its own hashtag, Time's Up. At the Golden Globes, you saw Tarana Burke and others join some of Hollywood's biggest stars wearing black on the red carpet. One of those big stars was Meryl Streep. And joining her, accompanying her on the red carpet, was the executive director of the National Domestic Workers Alliance, Ajen Poo. And Ajen joins us now for Women's Wednesday. Ajen, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm well. Happy to be with you.
It's a pleasure to have you, and welcome to you. Did you take part in any of the women's events over the weekend?
I sure did. I marched with a really large group of domestic workers in New York City. It was really so moving and powerful to see hundreds of thousands of people just streaming into the streets with this positive energy and this joy to be together.
What is this movement doing for this new movement, this new era of a women's movement? What is it doing for your work? What is it doing to benefit the plight of domestic workers, those whom you represent?
Well, the women I represent are the growing workforce of women who go to work in our homes, caring for our children as nannies, keeping sanity in our homes as housekeepers, taking care of our parents as home care workers. And it's work that's incredibly valuable, but it has historically been so undervalued and really invisible. It's almost, if you think about it, it's because it's in the private home and it's hidden behind closed doors, it's almost defined by invisibility.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to be a part of this resurgence of passion and energy around equality, around violence against women, around justice, and that's really driven by women, is allowing us to make new connections, build unity with women of all walks of life in all different industries and all different communities to say, together we can be powerful enough to achieve the kind of progress that we deserve in this country.
When we talk about Me Too and harassment, because, as you describe so aptly, this type of work happens behind closed doors, women are more susceptible to these types of incidents, aren't they?
Well, if you think about what it took for our country to finally acknowledge that domestic violence was a reality, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like hidden, it's in the privacy of the home that created that kind of vulnerability. And there was a very, a deep code of silence around it. And that gives you a sense of what could be happening behind the closed doors to women who work in the private home. And I will say that there is, unfortunately, sexual assault and harassment is all too prevalent. And I hear everything from, male employers staying home from work and, being there, being naked, throwing pornography around, to actual rape cases. And, I think even if it weren't as prevalent as it is, one case would be far too many. And it's really time that we change our culture to really prevent this.
866-99-SERIOUS here on Women's Wednesday. Ajen Poo here with us, folks. The other reality of this as well is that many of these domestic workers, they aren't paid a lot. This is often the only job they can get, and so they're almost forced to endure a lot of this
Yeah.
abuse, aren't they, Agent? Because they have nowhere else to go.
It's not only that they have nowhere else to go. It's almost, I said this work is devalued. It's almost like we don't even recognize the work that goes into caring for our families and maintaining our homes has historically been associated with women, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
been kind of assumed that women will do this work. And I don't think it's an accident that the women who do this as their profession aren't recognized and are excluded from so many of the basic labor laws. And I think and also a lot of people don't realize that there's this long history of exclusion dating back to the 1930s
Mm-hmm.
when Southern members of Congress refused to support the labor laws that were a part of the New Deal if they included farm workers and domestic workers who were black workers at the time. So this history of racial exclusion, along with the way that we devalue the work of women, has just shaped these women's realities to the point where you can be working incredibly hard and make poverty wages in this
Mm-hmm.
industry.
Mm-hmm.
The annual median income for a home care worker, for example, is $13,000 per year.
Mm-hmm.
So the workers that we're counting on to take care of our families as we work can't earn enough to care for their own families doing the work.
Yeah, yeah. Agent Pooh with us, folks, here on this Women's Wednesday. The movement itself, the Me Too movement, and now all the exposure that this is getting, is this having an impact on domestic workers already, or is it too early to tell in terms of their safety, in terms of them really being free from some of this abuse?
Well, domestic workers have been organizing, and it was even before and parallel alongside to the development of the Me Too movement. Our organization was founded about 10 years ago, and even before that 10 years, people were organizing locally. And as a result of that organizing, domestic workers have been successful in passing bills of rights in 8 states. Nevada just became the 8th state to pass
Mm-hmm.
a domestic worker bill of rights. And what this new movement and this new energy and activism among women has done is just accelerate the culture change and really make it possible for us to have the kinds of conversations we need to have about our culture and why it devalues this work, and really build coalitions and unity with other women to make much larger scale change. And I think it's incredibly invaluable and really the opportunity of a lifetime to make progress for domestic workers.
Indeed, it is. It is. Talk to us, though, if you would, about whether or not there's a direct intersection between sexual harassment, sexual abuse that domestic workers face, and the low wages they make. Because I mean, those are the battles on two fronts. You gotta deal with them making enough money, making a living wage, and also deal with the abuse. Is it accurate to say those are two very separate battle fronts, or is there a direct intersection between the two?
I think it's two sides of the same coin.
Okay.
It's the same dehumanization that allows you to harass and abuse someone that it is that you would devalue and underpay them for their work. It's the same hierarchy of human value that allows you to objectify and violate women that it does for you to exploit them and underpay them. And I think that, really the antidote to the culture of violence that is so pervasive is really a culture of care. And if we can promote a society where we actually value this work that is so fundamental of caring for ourselves and our children and our families, and really value it economically, right, and culturally, it will go a long way to us recognizing each other's humanity such that we won't abuse people. And so I really do think it's two sides of the same coin, and it's really about how we value and recognize the dignity of women and their humanity.
Agent Pooh with us, folks. Also, I thought it very significant that in this Time's Up movement, they developed a legal defense fund, not for Hollywood actresses per se, but for the very people you represent, the everyday workers, the everyday people who have to face sexual harassment and abuse. I thought that was I think that's a great thing, Agent.
I agree. I think it's wonderful. And I think that part of where it came from is this really beautiful call and response between women in the entertainment industry who are starting to come forward and farm worker women who wrote a letter of solidarity with those women as they saw them coming forward to say, we're with you, we see you, we also experience abuse, so we understand how difficult it is, and we want to be with you in this movement to transform our culture and our laws. And I don't know if you saw the letter in Time magazine, but it is a powerful statement of solidarity. And I think what we've seen from that moment on is really a dialogue between women across industries where every time a woman comes forward and shares her story, it inspires and emboldens another woman. Meryl Streep at the Golden Globe said, courage begets courage, right? Courage is contagious. And what we're seeing is women really inspiring and emboldening each other to speak our truths and to organize and to come forward and to do it together and to support each other. That is the most important part of it.
So, Agent Pooh with us, folks, National Domestic Workers Alliance. So, Agent, today, for example, what's on your agenda? What is a something that is happening right now today, currently, that NDWA is doing that my listeners can get involved in and help you with?
Well, on Tuesday evening, we will be organizing an event called the State of Our Union, which will be bringing women together from around the country. There'll be an event in Washington and a live stream that your listeners can tune into, where you'll hear the stories of women from around the country about what is happening in this country from our perspective, right? What is the economic reality? What is the social? What are the challenges that women are facing every day as we struggle to work and support our families? So it'll be a lot of storytelling and also talking about real solutions. It's time that we actually move towards solutions and we hold our elected officials accountable for addressing these challenges that are facing women. So it's called the State of Our Union, and you'll be able to find more information at the stateofourunion.org very soon.
All right. Stateofourunion.org. Also, folks, domesticworkers.org. You mentioned what's happening in terms of bills of rights in different cities and what have you in states. Is there anything on the national level in terms of Capitol Hill that people can help you fight for?
Well, one thing that is very immediate is that there are 11 million people who are living in this country without immigration status, and a very large concentration of them do domestic work.
Mm-hmm.
They take care of our families and our kids and our homes, and in fact, my industry, the domestic work industry, is the one with the largest concentration of undocumented immigrants. So we are very, very much dependent on this workforce of women who are living here without status. And over the course of the last few months, Congress has been discussing the passage of a DREAM Act. And so now is a really important time. The DREAM Act enables about 800,000 undocumented young people, many of whom are domestic workers and the sons and daughters of domestic workers, to legalize their status, to work legally, to go to school, to contribute to their communities as fully legal residents. And the administration revoked the DREAM Act, and ever since then, we have been trying to fight to get it back. And we have an opportunity, a really unique window between now and February 8th to pressure Congress to make it so. So I really hope that your listeners can call your members of Congress and your senators to really ask them to support the DREAM Act, passing the DREAM Act now.
Do you think, Jen, that what happened with the shutdown was effective in the cause?
I really wish that the shutdown, of course, was really unfortunate in terms of the impact on working families. But I think what was happening was the Republican Party and the administration was holding the immigrant community and many other policies like children's health hostage in that debate. And it just goes to show their moral compass is completely out of whack, and they're not representing our interests, the interests of our families and our children. Mm-hmm. And so, I think that we need our elected officials to stand strong by their values and really support all families, including immigrant families. And this is a moment where their leadership is really being tested. And I think the fact that they conceded without getting clear commitments was a mistake.
I see. So we've got February 8th. Folks, of course, we want you to continue to call your members of Congress, ask them to support a clean DREAM Act. We know the courts have spoken on the president rescinding DACA, and so we've gotten some adjustment in that. But for some people, it's already been too late because their DACA's already expired. So we want to be involved. We've been having a discussion, quite frankly, Jen, for the past couple of mornings about what is next in terms of strategy. Let me ask you just a quick question, and I may be putting you on the spot because I'm not clear on this. You may not know the specific detail on this. It's a little bit in the weeds. Do we know whether everyone can now reapply? Have the courts put us in a position that DACA will be sustained as the status quo until further notice, or are things pretty much still in limbo for everybody?
We're proceeding as if things are in limbo.
Okay.
And I think it's still we're in the same place in terms of lack of clarity. But it will become more clear as the lawyers sort through. And so I think I would encourage people to follow the National Immigration Law Center and United We Dream for up-to-date notice on that.
Indeed. Jen Pooh, folks, domesticworkers.org. And also, shortly, you say people can go to stateoftheunion.org.
State of our union.
State of our union. I'm sorry. Yeah, definitely not State of the Union. State of our union.
Yeah, exactly.
This will be the real State of the Union. You all do her State of the Union. Don't do theirs. Stateofourunion.org. To keep up with what is going on. That'll be next Tuesday. That'll be live streaming as well. Correct. Correct.
Yep. In the evening at 8 p.m.
Jen, we have so much respect for you. We're so thankful for the work you're doing. It is very, very important work. Any way that these airwaves can support your work, you don't hesitate to let us know. As long as I'm on the air, you always have access to the airwaves and all the work you're doing. Okay.
Thank you so much. It's so good to have a friend in the airwaves.
Sure. Well, you can count on it. Okay. And again, God bless you and thank you. All right. Stay strong.
Thank you so much.
All right. We'll see you on the front lines. Take care.
See you there.
All right. Bye-bye. Jen Pooh, folks, our very special guest on this Women's Wednesday. Those are domestic workers. But what about janitors? Women who are janitors, night shift janitors. Think they might be sexually harassed and abused as well? We want to hear all about that. Join us on Sirius XM Progress 127. Those of you watching on our live stream, we'll end our stream now. But turn on your radio. If you're in the car on the way to work, you want to listen to this. These are workers just like you, janitorial workers, women. We're going to hear all about their story on this Women's Wednesday on MIP as soon as we return. Sirius XM Progress 127 Resistance Radio. Get woke. Get ready for impeachment. This is MIP.